So before I preview this weekend's action around MLS, it's official. Brenden Aaronson is going to RB Salzburg. And after a couple of weeks where there's been rumors that he could be leaving the Philadelphia Union at the end of the season and finally make the jump to Europe, and that first team that is he's going to join in Europe is going to be RB Salzburg. Well, today it basically is officially confirmed that he is going to be going to RB Salzburg at the end of the 2020 MLS season. Now, the transfer fee for Brenden Aaronson on the league website, and when they announced this in their article, they said it's a multi-million-dollar fee, but I kind of had to dig this a little bit to look at other sources to say what is actually the fees, because for whatever reason, MLS, whenever they publish an article of a player that they decide that is going on an outgoing transfer or they're coming into the league, they don't actually tell you how much the amount of money it is. But I did dig a little bit in terms of looking other sources of what is actually the fees, and some say that it is a $6 million transfer fees with a $3 million add-on if certain requirement actually met, and the Union is going to get 10 to 20% off the sell-on fees, which means that if RB Salzburg decide to sell Brenden Aaronson to another big team in Europe, then the Union is going to get 10 to 20% off that transfer fees. Now, as I said, he is going to be remaining with the Union until the end of the 2020 MLS season. So if you're a Union fan, you can relax a little bit. You know, this doesn't mean that he's going to immediately go to RB Salzburg and you're not going to have him for the remaining of the season. He's going to stay with this team until the end of the season before he is going to be joining RB Salzburg no earlier than January of 2021. This also is a landmark move for the Philadelphia Union, as this is the first ever move that they were able to sell their player of going to Europe and their first outgoing European transfer. And this was also a pretty landmark moment in MLS in general, because Aaronson have now become the highest US-based homegrown player to transfer to Europe. Now, I know you probably think, well, what about Tyler Adams a couple of years ago when he made the jump to Europe by joining the other Red Bulls team, RB Leipzig? Well, the thing about that move is that, from what I remember, I don't think the Red Bulls actually got a lot out of that deal. And in many ways, they were kind of just selling them off to their parent club and just kind of gift wrap that player to there to kind of further develop. And in return, they didn't really get a lot out of it. And I'm pretty sure a lot of New York Red Bulls fans are a little bit upset the fact that they didn't get anything out of that, despite the fact that that is probably one of the most promising and one of the best player they've ever produced out of their academy, and they just got absolutely nothing out of it. But unfortunately, when you are part of the Red Bull brand and you decide to sell a player to another Red Bull brand, yeah, most likely that is going to result in you probably not getting anything out of this. Whereas here, since the Union, it has nothing to do with the Red Bull brand and they were able to kind of sell him to RB Salzburg, then yeah, that maybe is the reason why they actually got a huge amount of fee compared to when the Red Bulls decided to sell Tyler Adams to another Red Bulls team. Now, it's also important to note that he is the highest US-based homegrown player, and I know there's going to be some people say, well, what about Alphonso Davies? Highest US-based homegrown player. Alphonso Davies, as much as sometimes we forget that he's actually Canadian, and that I know a lot of US men's national team fan really want him with US. Heck, I would definitely want Alphonso Davies with the US team, and he's also considered one of my favorite player of all time in MLS. He is not, unfortunately, but that of course is still the highest MLS as outgoing transfer to Europe and highest amount out of any homegrown player ever. But in this case, it's the highest US-based homegrown player to transfer to Europe. Now, for those of you that, of course, are watching this video that is not an MLS fan, or you're an RB Salzburg fan watching this video, you probably want to know a little bit more about Brenden Aaronson. Well, he is a 20-year-old from Medford, New Jersey, and he signed a homegrown contract with the Union a couple of years ago, and then he actually broke into the Union first team back in 2019, and that, of course, was last season. And ever since he broke into the Union first team, pretty much the rest was history. I mean, he was as good as people kind of advertise that he can definitely have a high potential to be not only a great player in MLS, but could be a player that could actually make the jump and go to Europe sooner than any other academy product that is produced coming out of MLS. And he also started every game this season with the Union, which is definitely a bit of a surprise, even in my standards, because I know especially how this season has went with how tight the schedule is, and every single players have to pretty much play every 3 days because of the tight congested schedule. I didn't expect the fact that he would be starting every single game, and he would be only a very few amount of player that actually play every single game this season and actually play a game like every 3 days so far. But that, of course, is the case for him, and this also kind of shows you how important he is for the Philadelphia Union. And so far in his MLS career, he has been able to score 7 goals and record 7 assists in his 25 MLS starts. So yeah, overall, as I said before, I think this is just a good move, and that if you're an RB Salzburg fan, you definitely got yourself a very good young talented player that you could potentially sell him to a bigger European club in the upcoming years. And as I also said before, this is possibly the perfect outcome for Brenden Aaronson when he decided to make the jump to Europe and joining a team like RB Salzburg, because not only the fact that RB Salzburg has a history in terms of developing good young talent and also have a winning culture, but Jesse Marsch is the head coach of RB Salzburg, and it's not very often that you have an American making the jump to Europe, and that your first club that you're able to join is going to be coached by an American head coach, and pretty much going to be a mentor of you making that transition from playing in MLS and finally making the jump and playing in a foreign place. So in some way, I feel like this transition compared to past years where American player does go to Europe, and some of them do have a little bit of a problem in terms of making the transition. Well, because of the fact that Jesse Marsch is there, and he also have a good history in terms of developing young players, I think this transition for Brenden Aaronson is going to be much smoother than what we see in the past, and I have full faith that once he does join with RB Salzburg, we could really see him joining the U.S. men's national team and appear for the country for a long time, because I really think he could not only push his game to the next level when he's with RB Salzburg, but he's gonna be really the future in terms of our midfield. Like I could imagine in a couple of years we're going to have a good midfield line with the likes of Tyler Adams and Brenden Aaronson anchoring that midfield line for the U.S. men's national team. And barring if the U.S. Soccer Federation don't actually fucked up in terms of how they develop these players and actually hire a coach, or if Greg Berhalter doesn't really screw up in terms of not realizing that Brenden Aaronson could be the future in terms of the midfield for the U.S. men's national team, he could really be a really good starter for that team. And he is a really bright future, and that I definitely wish him the best when he is going to be joining RB Salzburg during the next year and at the end of this MLS season. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this deal if you're a Union fan? I know you're going to be a little bit disappointed the fact that you're going to lose one of your most important players this off season, but at the same time you're going to get a huge sum of money that you can invest in terms of the academy, or even bring in a guy that is going to be similar to Brenden Aaronson to replace him in the starting 11. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this deal? And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I will see you guys next time.